Darren Rovell with Collect TV, here with Leighton Sheldon of Just Collect, and he does include the vowels for those storing at home. We are doing the top cards of the 80s, the most important cards. And great article on our website by Will Stern and Ben Burrows. And Leighton has not seen the list, and we're going to go through them as kids of the 80s who spent time at the Holiday Inn in Plainview and Morristown, and a lot of these hotels where we would run over each other to try to get the Billy Ripken rookie. So great memories. Now, what's amazing about this list, I'm going to go through the list and we're going to talk about each one. Number one is the 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer rookie. Now, I want to tell everyone, for those youngsters who are out there, how insignificant this card was, at least in my life. I was an NBA fan. I did not buy a pack, even though they were originally 50 cents, and at our local 7-Eleven, they went down to 20 cents. I did not buy a pack. And at card shows in 1986, 87, 88, 89, you might have found three of these. Like, meanwhile, you would find 750 million 1986 Fred McGriff rated rookies, not even Jose Canseco. Okay, so it is kind of amazing when you think about it, Leighton, about how irrelevant it was. And obviously, basketball had the whole hiatus and the break. But isn't it amazing that that's number one, and in the 80s, it would not have been in the top 10?
It's mind-boggling considering the power of Jordan today, which many would argue is more powerful than when he was playing.
Yep. Yep. And when you think about those boxes, a lot of the boxes that now sell for $100,000, they have black X's in Sharpie across it. And the reason was that a lot of these retailers couldn't actually sell them. So they sent them back to Fleer, and that's why they had the X over them. So that's just wild to me, and I think that context is important. All right, number two is the '89 Ken Griffey Jr. card. Very relevant. We thought it was going to pay for all our college educations. We took the words limited edition on the foil packs a little too literally. And now it is like the most graded card in PSAs. It's amazing how many. But listen, iconic photo, number one, upper decks first set. We loved these things. So not surprising.
Agreed. And for whatever it's worth, that card is often plagued by centering issues.
Which is weird, because you think if it would be the first in the sheet, you would think it would be plagued by a left-hand corner or something like that.
So typically, Darren, cards that are on the corner of a sheet are generally the ones that often have centering problems.
Okay, there we go. That's interesting. I would think it would be like in the middle of a sheet where there's other like white borders around it.
It depends on the issue, but from what I can tell through the years, it definitely affected the Griffey, because think about it, it's the most graded card of all time by PSA, and yet the percentage
There's only 43,
actually,
yeah, 4,300 out of 180,000 are tens.
it's a pretty low percentage.
Yeah, yeah. Next one, number three, we have the Larry Bird, Julius Erving, Magic Johnson, hilarious scoring leaders card, right? Like, so when you think about scoring leaders, you think of like it's the checklist type thing, and this just happens to be, the rookies of Magic and Larry, the three cards across. We've seen a lot of these. I actually don't remember seeing this. Again, we were so into baseball and not into basketball at all. Do you remember this card as part of your childhood exploits?
I remember trying to acquire that card as a young kid along with the Jordan, but I honestly don't ever remember seeing packs of it,
No.
even in the late 80s. Like, I don't remember going to a card show and ever seeing it available. So the fact that it's available now, I would just say there was a lot of us, not a lot, there was several astute collectors who were buying like the Topps returns back in the day and just stashing them away for many years. And I
Wow.
think that's where a
Amazing.
lot of these X out boxes come from. And that's why they're still, around today.
I'm surprised that PSA has graded 17,000 of these things. But again, only 24 PSA 10s. So, I think this card has come up for what it was not, especially a card in 1980. The fact that there's 17,000, that's more than I would think. But again, the gem mint rate is still extremely low. Uh,
Interesting question about that card for you, Darren. If it wasn't Dr. J, and let's say it was an NBA journeyman who happened to be in the top scoring that year, do you think that card is as desirable today if Dr.
Absolutely.
J
No, absolutely not. If that's David Thompson,
agreed?
if that's David
Agreed.
Thompson, no way. Nope.
So think
So
about how fortunate Magic and Larry are to have the Doc in the middle.
yeah, and and I think Magic and Larry have signed a little bit too much, including on that card. But well, we'll let that go. Number four is the Ricky Henderson 1980 Tops, a beautiful card, a card that I do remember from my childhood. But this story is really about the gem mint rate. This is almost like, and I did if you want to find the story that I did just on this card, because I think this is the hardest card to get in a 10 relative to the population. 43,386 examples, 25 graded a PSA 10. And last year in our article, PSA said that the problem is that it's large swath of dark black surface on the front of the card, thanks to the shadow dugout in the background, led to print defects like snowing and fisheye. You want to tell us a little bit more about that, Leighton?
Yeah, 1980 Topps baseball was produced on a very low quality stock. So on
Yes.
top of it being a low quality stock, there was a number of issues that plagued it as far as what PSA just talked about, as far as like the surface issues, print dots, which is affectionately known as PD in our industry. But in general, that card was produced at a very low quality. And if you think about it, it does make sense. Topps was the only manufacturer of baseball cards in 1980. They had no competition.
And that came in what? In 80 81. Then you had
81 is when you started to have Fleer and Donruss,
the
and
antitrust
ultimately put a
lawsuits.
little pressure. Yeah, put
Yeah.
some pressure on Topps. But in 1980, I believe that's why the cards are so tough to find in gem mint condition, because Topps had no reason to care about quality control.
Right. Now, the number five card is the 1986 Jerry Rice rookie. I saw this card all over the place. For all intents and purposes, this was like junk wax type stuff. Okay? Like just junk wax, and again, this is a situation where this is almost like the 80s version of Metal Universe. The green border makes it so hard to get a card that is in good condition that this one has 41,000 examples of the 86 rookie and only 63 gem mint 10s. And that's why we've seen, Leighton, I know the calls that you get are the same calls that I get. Oh my God, I have the Jerry Rice rookie that just sold for $125,000. And then you say, yeah, but an eight is $70. And they're like, what?
Yeah,
So this
it's tough for them to comprehend. Absolutely, I always tell them about diamonds because diamonds are always valuable in any condition, but the nicer the diamond can exponentially go up in price.
Right, right. So this Jerry Rice, certainly junk wax, but the green makes it very tough.
Junk wax back in the day, but today very good wax. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, for sure. The Joe Montana 81. Now this is also a quality of paper issue. The 1980 Tops baseball, like you said with the Ricky Henderson, the 81 Tops also the same issues, lower quality paper, and that leads you to the fact that the gem rate of PSA rate of the Joe Montana rookie is just 8% of all total cards. Anything on this card that you find fascinating?
It's interesting because for whatever it's worth, Darren, in 1981, I believe, and I have nothing to back it up other than what's on the market, but I believe Topps produced an incredible amount of football cards. And the reason why I say that, if you go to like someone like Steve Hart's website at BBC Exchange,
Yeah.
there's literally rack, cello, wax, and it doesn't exist like that in any other year.
Right.
Like in '84, which had Marino and Elway, he doesn't have cello, rack, wax, etc. So I
Right.
don't know if it was like, let's print on all this old equipment that we have, and then in 82, we're going to start fresh. I don't know what happened, Darren, but something was definitely going on in 81.
Very interesting. And just like Jordan, Montana's rookie year technically was 79, but 2 years later is his rookie because of when football cards were produced. Number seven is the 84 star Michael Jordan. Uh, I had seen bags of this thing back in the day. I would say I saw more of this stuff than the 86 Fleer. And as you know, in the past couple years, the star has kind of moved to the forefront, partly because whether it was true or not, PSA has kind of said, oh, we're now grading this after years and years of we're not grading it because we think that there's been an inordinate amount of fakes. Uh, where do you think the PSA 9 sold for 925,000? I don't think there is a PSA 10. But what do you think about this
There's not.
card in particular?
I feel similar to you, Darren, in that I remember as a kid seeing a lot of the bags around. And for whatever it's worth, and this just might be my crazy memory as a kid, but my parents didn't have any money. We didn't go to NBA games. And so my friends, which was a very limited amount that had these cards, from what I know of, that they were got and they were had at the arenas where these, where the teams
Yep.
played. So my point was, I looked at someone when I was a kid who had star basketball as being rich
Right.
because that's the only way that you could get the cards. And so, like, I wasn't privy to going to basketball games. But, putting all of that aside, I've heard a lot of arguments about, hey, is it just like the 51 Bowman mantle and the 52, meaning the 51's the rookie and the 52 is
Right.
very desirable, but it's not. I don't know about any of that. I just know this, that if you have put a gun to my head, the card that resonates with me of the two is the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan. Because even though I didn't get it as a kid, I was aware of the packs. I was aware of a few of my close friends that had one, and there was just a little bit more known about it. That being said, it's hard to argue that his 84 is technically his rookie. It is absolutely tough to get. Look at the pop report numbers between PSA and Beckett, and there's just not that many graded. So who knows
Yeah,
what the future will hold, but they're both great cards.
I do think the picture of him rebounding a basketball is hilarious versus dunking. I mean, that just goes to show you what Star had and what they could get. All right, number eight is the 89 Fleer Billy Ripken. It's probably the one in that the 90s people are going to be like, what? Come on. Just because it has the F face error. I would say this has to be in there, and I personally lobbied for this. Uh, when the 89 Fleer came out, this was the greatest chase ever. Now, people have to realize whether you believe it or not, I think that card companies were doing errors in the 80s just to get the juice going. There was the Dale Murphy reverse negative, the John Littlefield reverse negative. It was the Al Leiter and Mark Leiter, or whatever it was. The Gary Pettis and his standing in for his brother. There was a million of these things, but the Billy Ripken, the fact that it said the expletive F, is unbelievable to kids. And us kids as a 11-year-old kid, that was like the greatest, so funny, and the greatest bragging rights. I remember people would be screaming, I got the Ripken! And then there's the cross out and the box out and everything. So where do you think this card has to be on the list?
Has to be, Darren. And it's not because of necessarily the value, because I remember the calamity around that card. And you're right. Similar to the way someone might say, then they exclaimed, I have an MJ. People would open. I remember 89 Fleer was kind of cheapish. It wasn't the upper deck issue. You could afford it. But man, that error, I believe it touched in a pre-eBay, pre-social media era. Darren, my mother knew about that card.
Right.
That's what I mean. That card had a lot of reach to it.
Yeah, just amazing. And the fact that it was real, it wasn't photoshopped, and Billy telling me the story for the first time, I'll remember that forever. All right, this is arguable here. It's the 1982 Wrestling All-Stars Hulk Hogan. If you're not considering the Japanese issues, this is his rookie. I always thought his rookie was, again, before the internet hit in the 80s, I thought his rookie was the 85 Topps card, of course. And I feel like this is a recent phenomenon, last 5 years, where the people who have collected this have put this in here. Do you remember the 82, the yellow border wrestling
Not
all-stars?
when I no, Darren, not when I was a kid. When
No,
I was a kid, I certainly remember the 85 Hogan. And I would say, as much as this card is iconic today, I don't know. It's the first card I'm pausing on your list.
me too.
It could be part of the 80s. I don't think though it's part of this list.
Yeah, it's not the most valuable. Again, a PSA 9 sold for 132,000. Yeah, maybe the 80s boys wouldn't put this in here. I had no idea this set existed. And then our last one is the 85 O-Pee-Chee Mario Lemieux. For me, I don't think any hockey card, I don't think any hockey card is in here. Uh, there's others considered and going through things. I think the 85 Topps McGuire is not should be number 10 here. I think that card was because of the Olympics and everything else. I think that card was something that we went after. But like, I just don't. I had no concept there were even hockey cards.
Well, I agree with you that it shouldn't be number 10, but I would say a little, anecdotal story that growing up I would go to the Freehold Raceway Mall where I went to a lot of card shows and conventions, and I do remember there was a few dealers and I'm like, "What is that? What is that card? It looks so cool." He's like, "It's O-Pee-Chee." Like, what does that even mean? But I agree. I would make an argument against that card with the 85 McGuire, but I would say very close to the McGuire is the 84 Donruss Mattingly. Because especially growing up in the Northeast, I'm really remiss to leave off a Mattingly rookie from that list. But that's what makes it fun to discuss.
Yeah, the 84 Donruss or the 86 Donruss Canseco.
Once again, I think the three of those now, I'll add Conseco, are all higher on the chart than the Lemieux. But I would
Yeah.
say maybe this will leave Collect to do the next 10 at
Well,
some
this is
point in the
what this
future.
is what this is what a list is. I let the 90s boys or in Will's case the 2000s go look at this. I'm sure I'll have something else to say, but that's why we let the 80s boys do the video and argue it. And this is what's so great about lists. But I just do want to tell everyone that, like, again, there was more heat on Greg Jeffries and Todd Van Poppel. Well, Todd Van Poppel's 90. I got to be careful. But Greg Jeffries and all the star hunting that we did, Kevin Seitzer and Corey Snyder, there was more hits and more heat on those guys than Michael Jordan, Joe Montana, and Jerry Rice. That's just what the 80s were. It was baseball dominated all the time. And it's hard to believe when looking and considering this list today, that it was just all baseball and nothing else. But from an 80s kid and an 80s kid to you guys, that really was how it was.